Hi, everybody. It's Kate.
And I'm Roxy, and we're bringing you Unfiltered. And the way that we see this show running is that we're going to talk about real life things, and we're going to get in deep, and we're going to talk about it because I feel like this is missing in our community. How do you feel about that, Kate?
It's so true. We want authentic conversations. Both of us come from different backgrounds and different viewpoints on a variety of different things. We're in different places in the US, and we're really excited to come together and have these conversations, deep conversations about things that matter to us and things that are going on in the world and how we see it.
Yeah, it's so important. I feel like because it is missing. Like we see a lot of like things and helpful things, especially right now with the pandemic that's going on. But I feel like it's not enough, honestly. Like I feel like we need to like break it down a little bit more and say, oh my gosh, this is how I'm really feeling, and like what can I do about it?
I think,
Because it's
yeah.
missing.
I think a lot of people, Roxanne, and I don't know if you're seeing this, like a lot of people want to have conversations about COVID, but we've all obviously isolated ourselves because we're sheltering in place and with this pandemic going on, that I think a lot of times we don't really have the opportunity to have authentic conversations with people. It's kind of these quick check-ins with our friends, like, hey, how are you doing? Or text messages, but not to actually have these like in-person conversations. And we're all really craving that. Like I was telling you the story about when I went to the grocery store the other day and was checking out, and the woman at the checkout, she was talking about how just her family and different things that were going on, and she was asking me about my family and my life, and we're all just craving those interpersonal conversations so badly. You like leave your house and this first person you see, they want to have a conversation with you. You're going for a walk. And so I really think it's so important for us to encourage that. You and I want to encourage that. We want people to take this conversation and run with it, to find opportunities to have authentic conversations in their own lives. Please share this. We hope that this really sparks, we hope that people learn from this conversation, but also that they can take this conversation and run with it and find opportunities to have authentic conversations about what's going on in the world, in their own communities, with their own friends and their own families.
Yeah, I think it's just very, very important. Like right now, people are like, what do I do? If a stranger says hi to me or they want to do I have a conversation? Like, is it safe? And, people are really, really like pent up. Like cabin fever is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people at the beginning of this thing were like, yeah, okay, I get to stay at home. I've been prepping for this my whole entire life.
I feel like all of us were like, when it first happened, even like kids, you think about kids when they got off of school for the first time. And I know your kids were probably this way, where they were like, yes, it's summer break early. I get to have a break. I'm going to have a couple weeks off. I can just play and do whatever I want. Like I'll do my online schoolwork. And I think that was kind of all of us. We were like, this is kind of fun. Like, okay, I can do this. I don't have to like go out to the grocery store every day, or like, as much as I want to go run errands, like I don't have to do that. I can stay at home. I'll watch some Netflix. But now we've all been sheltering in place for so long that it's like the fun has worn off. The honeymoon is over, and it's like, okay,
Yes.
now you actually have to continue on your life. Like your life continues on, work continues on for a lot of people. Other people are dealing with the difficulties right now of jobs ending or businesses closing. I mean, there's just so many ramifications that we don't even know yet. Like we don't really know how this is all going to play out in our personal lives and in our communities. And so I think it's really difficult for people to process, because it's like, okay, it was fun for the first couple weeks, but now what does our life look like now? People keep talking about this new normal, but it's like, no, the world is different, and there is going to be a new normal, but how do we process that, and how do we kind of continue on in our lives?
Yeah, and things are opening back up. Like little by little, things are opening back up. Like I've been getting emails like our stores are open now, and you can come and shop or you can come and eat now. And people are like, well, how does that work? And should we even be going out? And a lot of people judge other people when they go out, right? Like if I were to like go out to Target and they might see me with my kids, guys, I've been stuck in the house for a long time. The kids are going nuts. And like I understand that, yeah, but they need a little bit of a break. They need to go and get a book, or they need to go and buy a toy. And a lot of people are like, oh no, like you should never do that. But here's the thing, our mental health is really important and valid. And some of us might be dealing with depression or anxiety or whatever you may have. And instead of having like that culminating feeling of you're going to have a panic attack, maybe you're going to take a little road trip to Home Depot, or you're going to take a little road trip to the gardening store and pick up some essentials so you can start gardening or baking or whatever it might be. So a lot of people like to judge other people for what they're doing, but it's not that simple. I think we need to talk about it. Like I've been personally the last couple of weeks, I think I've been like, oh, I can't be on social media anymore. I can't, watch any more TV. I've had it. I've seen everything already, and it's really, okay, I'm complaining about watching TV. So if you minimize it to I'm complaining about watching TV, it's really taking away from the fact that I may be going through some anxiety because I've been in the house. So that's also valid. Like a lot of people like to downplay what you're complaining about, but it's not really a complaint. You have to look at the underneath emotion that you might be feeling.
Yeah, we have to be okay with feeling our feelings. And I think a lot of people are having a hard time processing because we'll have opportunities to process, like as we're out and about doing things. Like I definitely process, I have to talk through things, or I'll go and like run errands or go for a drive. Like I think a lot when I'm on drives, and now a lot of people aren't going out. I know myself, like I haven't gone out as much as I usually do, even just on drives, different places. And there are issues with that, that we don't have the usual ways that we all process, how we've learned to process through our feelings or think through things, or just to feel good, all the things that we do that kind of make us happy, or, people that are into sports, they like to watch sports and that's how they kind of decompress, and that's how they have their little process time, or, the fun things to kind of blow off steam. A lot of that stuff isn't around right now. And so you mentioned anxiety, you mentioned depression, suicide rates, Roxanna. Like I've been thinking so much about all these different things that people are really dealing with, and even children. Like that's the thing that breaks my heart the most, is to see these kids who are really suffering. And I don't know what the answer is to all of those, but we need to figure out how to reach out to one another, to look for signs with our kids and make sure that our kids are getting formed, or that they have the space to process in the way that they usually do. And if they don't have that space or that thing that they usually use to process, that we find other ways for them to blow off steam, or kind of find community. It's just, there's so much that we're going to have to deal with coming out of this. And so I think it's so important, even like we're having this conversation, to talk about all the different things that we're all dealing with. And we don't really know what the future holds. We don't know what it's going to look like 2 weeks from now or a month from now, but to recognize that we're all in this together, and we're all processing this in different ways, and looking for ways that we can support one another.
Yeah, very important. And you're right. I think whatever it is that we used to do, it was so normal to us because we've been practicing. We've never experienced anything like this. So we've been practicing. Our processing works because it's our go-to processing, right? And then now it's like, oh, I have to process in a different way. Ooh, what does that look like? I don't know any of the other ones,
Right.
We don't have those tools. So a lot of people are scrambling or shutting down. Very normal to dissociate. And when I bring up dissociation, people are like, whoa, no way. But dissociating is really easy. It could be it's picking up your phone and being on Instagram all day. That's a dissociation tactic. It might work for certain people because they're like, oh, I just have to detach for a moment because my feelings are too strong and I don't know how to process those. Or I need to just put things on pause and let me dissociate for a little bit. Let me get back to what I'm used to doing. There is no what I'm used to doing. Now it's like, what do I do? I don't know how else to like reach out to somebody, tell them what I'm really feeling, or maybe they don't have that person to tell. And it's just so important to be able to have those conversations with your kids. Because like you said at the beginning, everybody was super excited about it. I know my kids were, but now they're like, I miss school. It's a social thing.
Yeah, they miss their friends. They miss the normalcy, like the things that we all used to do. Right.
Yeah.
And they need space too. I feel like kids, all of us, we all need like our space, even if you're the most extroverted person, like you still need space to kind of like think through stuff or process, or just do something that's normal to you, whether it's like going shopping or, going to Target. Like everybody has these little things that kind of help them process and separate them too. You brought up social media, like that separate them from, okay, sitting in their space where they're just constantly looking at likes and thinking about, and that's gotta be really hard for kids who are used to being at school. They have a lot of distractions, and now they're at home with their Facebook, with their Instagram, with their whatever. And just to be sitting in that space has got to be really difficult, that they don't kind of have something to break that up.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And not only kids, like us, we're all social. Like that, this whole thing has taught us that we're more social than we thought. Because a lot of people are like, I'm an introvert. I like my alone time. But even as a, introvert, you do need a little something. You need to say hi to your neighbor. You need to say hi to your, like anybody. You crave that like interaction. And even as an introvert, like you got little doses of it.
Right.
So
like hugs, like I love hugs. I feel like and I've seen different studies about where it's like you have to have X number of hugs a day or a week that like help you feel loved. And I like find myself like wanting to like hug random people because it's like I can't, like obviously, but it's like we just crave that, like we crave that human interaction.
And how many hugs are normal? Because I'm not a hugger, so what is that?
I don't know. I've seen like 5, but you hugged me though.
Well, yeah, only people I'm comfortable with.
But yeah, no, I think, but it's back to the point of like, it's so important for us to feel our feelings and recognize that. And so like recognize things that we're missing and say like, okay, me, like all I want to do is hug people, like I just miss that. And thankfully like I have family around, so I'm able to hug people somewhat, not as much as usual, but, seeing that, or like, okay, I can't do X, Y, and Z, but what are other things? Like, I love that all these people are, finding new hobbies and cooking or knitting or whatever their new hobby is. Cause they're really trying to, at the end of the day, I feel like those people are trying to fill that void of something that they used to love. And they're trying to find a new love in all of this. And I think it's important for all of us to do that, to say, okay, like maybe I can't, watch sports, but what's something else that can kind of fill that void and like help me decompress or help me feel love or whatever, whatever the thing is that's missing right now.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask you something. What hobby or thing have you picked up through this whole thing that you feel like, oh, now I'm doing this and I feel a little bit better? Like, and that you've never, you wouldn't have done it. You didn't have time or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't really picked up a hobby, but I actually have been reading more often because for so long, like I think like so many people, I'm a book collector. So I love like picking up books, and I had bought a bunch of books before all of this had happened, and just different books that I wanted to read, just stories or things that people that were interesting to me that I wanted to learn about. And Roxanna, I never made time to actually like sit down and read, which is crazy to me. It's like, it doesn't take that much time. You can sit down and read like, one chapter a night or something. And, so it was really important for me to like find time to read. And I have some friends who have just like, read 100 books since all this started. So in the past 60 days, they've just been like plowing through, which that's crazy to me. That's a couple books a day. But I haven't gotten that far, but even just to be like, okay, I've read like a couple, like I could point out different books that I've read, which is really good. And like, I'm finding that love again, because for so long, I just, I kind of get so busy and I'll do stuff online, or I'll be looking at social media, or I'll be doing research online, so I'll be reading about stuff online, but it's so important to get away from the screen. And I found myself, like one thing that I really found myself, and why I started doing like really focusing on reading, is I found myself so burnt out by screens, because I'm just like constantly like in front of a TV or watching Netflix or on my computer or on my phone or on Instagram. It's like constantly in this pandemic, I feel like my screen time, I don't even want to look at what it says on my phone, because it's probably like through the roof. And so I've really tried to find things that I can do to separate myself from that. So like reading, going on walks, taking my dogs for walks, doing different things like that get me away, going on drives, because that's like a way that I decompress, is like going on drives, listening to music, blasting it. Or, some people like to listen to podcasts, different things, but just finding those little spaces is so important to me. Yeah. So What about you? What kind of hobbies have you taken up during this?
Well, this hobby is completely unrelated to anything positive. No, it's been it's been really fun, and people are gonna be like, "What?" But at the beginning of this whole thing, I started feeling sick. You know, we've been trying to like plan this show for a while now, and I texted you and I said, "Oh, I can't do it." But my husband, while I was feeling sick, my husband got me Animal Crossing on the Switch, on Nintendo Switch.
Oh,
And I
I was like,
literally have
what
been
is
playing
that? I was
Animal
like, what's
Crossing.
Animal Crossing?
It's amazing. It's like the best thing ever. So I know that that's not normal for a lot of people, but I've been playing a lot of video games.
That's great though, but I think it's like finding space. So what is Animal Crossing?
Okay, Animal Crossing is a whole thing. Basically, you're stuck in this remote island and you're supposed to like decorate it. So they give you a house and they start furnishing your house and you start picking up little furniture off of trees. You start chopping down trees. It's a whole thing. It's really fun. And then there's Tom Nook, who you have to pay money. So if you want to expand your house, it's like, I don't know, 200 bells, 200,000 bells or something like that. So you're pretty much working for Tom Nook. And at this point, I'm terraforming my island. So now you get to like build a village and move your residents. It's a whole thing. But like you said, going back to like weird things that we're doing just to like do something else and feel good. I also love to go for drives. Like that has always been so comforting. I don't know what it is about for drives or what, as long as there's no traffic. I can't stand traffic. But
Name.
we went down to Houston like 2 days ago. We went down to Houston and we took the kids. Like we didn't even leave the car. And we went down and got cookies at the bake shop. It was so good. And we were like so excited. We got our cookies and then we drove back. And it was nice.
Yeah, just to find like just little things like that. And for all of us, it's been so nerve wracking because you don't really know what you're allowed to do or what you're not supposed to do. And like even being in Michigan, there was so much uncertainty about like were we even allowed to drive. And so different times I was like waiting to be pulled over and then interrogated about what my plans were or why I was driving. And so I think that's been a lot of uncertainty for people, but we need to find these opportunities and like we need to find things that really feed our souls.
Yeah. And if your screen time is going up, if, you don't know how to it's normal. Don't shame yourself over it. I think it's just very important to put that out there because, yeah, it's not normal what we're going through. And we were talking about before any of this came on that, we tend to shame ourselves, but leaving the house or doing or running an errand is a lot. It takes a lot of like physical and mental energy. So if you run one errand, let's say you have to go to Target to pick up, I don't know, food, and you get back home, you're exhausted. I know that I'm exhausted after like one errand, where in a day I could probably go out and do 3-4 errands and feel the same exact type of way. Like I would have to take a nap afterwards because you're like, do I touch something? Do I not touch something? If this person's talking to me, can I ask them a question? Like, how do I approach? Or I don't want to touch the cart. Let me just grab bagels with my hand and have my husband carry this.
Yeah, it's so nerve-wracking. And I feel like all of us have like become these pots of anxiety, not even because of anything that we've done or anything that we were dealing with before, but we've all become these pots of anxiety because like you said, you go to the grocery store or wherever and it's like you're dealing with everybody else's opinions and there are a lot of different opinions out there. Everybody is kind of in the same boat where it's like we don't know who to trust, we don't know how this is traveling, and you want to use this time in the best possible way. And I actually saw a meme the other day. I had a friend who was talking to me about like, yeah, I kept thinking I would work out and I would do all these things. And then here we are, 60 days later, almost 60 days later. And, I haven't done any of those things. And I know myself when all the pandemic like erupted, I signed up for all the different free like online workouts and different things. Have I done any of them, Roxy? No, I haven't done any of them. And so I'm like, all right, I have all these like free applications. Why haven't I done it? And I saw this meme that was really powerful. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this too. Mm-hmm. It was really powerful to me, but it was like, we have in this time where all of us want to utilize this extra time that we have, we need to remember that we're not just living with quote unquote extra time. We're living through a pandemic. And I think that that's a really good, when I saw that meme, it was so important to me because it kind of like put me in check, where I realized there's like, okay, yeah, I'm actually living through a pandemic. It's not just that the world has shut down and now I have all this quote unquote extra time to do all these things, to work out, to eat right. No, you have to like jump through a million hoops to even get to the grocery store. And, you know, if you want to eat paleo, or you want to start a new diet, or you want to work out or whatever, like everything is just more complicated. And so that really kind of fed my soul a little bit when I saw that meme and kind of put things in perspective. But what's your take on that?
I call BS on that. And I'm going to tell you why. I've been working more than ever, more than when I was going through grad school.
Yeah.
He's talking about it so much because I feel like at least when I was going through grad school, I had like free time. I would go on a little date with my husband. That was fun. Now it's like I'm working no matter what. Even when I'm not doing anything, I'm thinking about things that I want to do, or things that I want to write, or things that I want to get accomplished. So I'm making a little side notation, or I'm always working. Like I've been working nonstop through this whole thing. So people who say that they have free time and that they've, you know, worked on a hobby or whatever it may be, I'm not so sure. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of people on our boat where we're like, we thought we were going to have time, but we really don't. I don't have time. Now I'm a teacher to my kids. Now I have to like figure out every single time that they eat, because at least when they were in school, it's like, okay, I make them their lunch, they can eat. Somebody was taking care of a lot of things for me, and now I have to take care of it. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm like being ungrateful or anything like that. Like this is my job as a mom, but I'm also working. I'm also doing a billion things, like my dog, my this, my that. I had to figure out, like, I think on Thursday I have to take Kung Fu to the eye doctor because Kung Fu had cataract surgery. Kung Fu is my little Shih Tzu. And now I was like, oh my God, are they open? Like his eye is red. I don't know. Like I got to figure that out. And I had to call them and they're like, we're booked. Like everybody is booked. Everybody is overworked. There's no downtime. There's no work-life balance anymore.
Yeah.
So there's no fun time anymore. There's probably like an hour where you're like watching TV. You're like, to watch TV, but then you're also thinking of what I have to do tomorrow. I have to do this. You're going through checklists all the time, and I don't know if you're finding yourself going through checklists that I don't have time to, or the energy to sit down and read books.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that that's why that meme was so important, because it just said like we're living through a pandemic and a lot of things that we haven't had to think about. And even you brought up a good point too. Like all of us, I feel like, are working more than ever. You know, everything's a lot more difficult. You're spending more time. Anything that you were doing before, just on like the work side of things, even social media or things that we're doing there for our work and for what this foundation we're trying to build, it takes so much more time. But also people who have lost their jobs, there's so much stress. So they're thinking about like, okay, maybe they're not working right now, but they're stressing about what the future holds. And I think that's all of us, is like, there's so much uncertainty. So there really isn't, unless you're in the most stable of positions, the majority of us, you know, whether you're working more or your hours got cut or your, whatever, like all the different things that we're dealing with on a daily basis, family, you're spending more time on the stresses and the anxiety of what is to come, what could come, how we should handle things. Should I sell my business? Should I close my business? Should I hire more people? What am I going to do with all the people that work for me? I mean, like I'm thinking about even Detroit, all the restaurants there, and that's happening everywhere. But Detroit is a city that for so long was really on the downward spiral. And for the first time in a very long time, it kind of was on the up and up. And now I don't even want to know what 4 or 6 months from now that's going to look like. I hope that everybody's businesses open back up, but it seems like that's not going to happen. So just the stresses that all of us are dealing with on a daily basis, it's something like we've never had to deal with before. And that truly is because we're living through a pandemic. And so I think we all need to kind of give ourselves, like you said, even like we kind of need to give ourselves a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, you know, and give ourselves a little bit of it's okay. Like, it's okay if your screen time is more, or you're dealing with this stuff, or you don't have time. Like, we all make choices where we spend our time. Right. And so you need to really kind of like feel the feelings that you're feeling and give yourself the bandwidth, give yourself the space to really feel those feelings.
Yeah. And right now you just mentioned like our businesses are connected to other people, right? So we don't know if if they have lost their job or their business is taking a loss. Right now, they're not going out and buying extra stuff. So unfortunately, I've been working a lot because everybody's mental health is at an all-time high. Like everybody is like, oh my gosh, I really need extra help. So I've been getting a lot more DMs, a lot more clients and stuff like that because of what's going on. But at the same time, a lot of people who were like, oh, I really want to work with you, they can't because they're saving money. So what does that mean if I'm not seeing clients? Their mental health is taking a toll. And I get it. Totally get it because right now you have to focus on where am I going to get groceries? I don't have money to pay my rent. I don't have money to pay my car. I don't have money. My kids are at home. How am I going to feed them? So this is like the real conversation behind the everything. Everybody is so stressed out and wondering, what am I going to do? Because one business is taking a hit, the other one's going to take a hit too. Mm-hmm. So just like you mentioned, like those restaurants are closing. What are we going to do? Are they going to open back up? Some of them are opening back up, but I've been seeing a lot of restaurants by me who are like, we're not opening back up at all.
Yeah.
And those are people without a paycheck. Those are somebody's like mom and dad that they can't provide. So it's really hard right now for a lot of people to say, okay, I'm going to prioritize, I don't know, something fun when their needs change. Everybody's needs are changing. Mm-hmm. There's no wants anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give, Roxanna, to somebody who is struggling right now? Like, I know you're dealing with you're hearing from a lot of people who are dealing with, depression and anxiety or all these different things. I know abuse is something that you work with a lot of people on. What advice, I know those are all a variety of different things and there's different advice you would give depending on the situation, but what can we all do from your perspective right now to take care of ourselves?
I think it's very important to figure out what you can do and not worried about this is what I used to do. It's sort of like, this is my new normal. What am I going to be able to do? So start thinking about solutions that are going to work for you now versus, oh, when we're out of this, I think it's just so important to focus on the day to day, rather than, in a couple months, I might be able to do this, because we don't know what a couple months is. We're all speculating on a couple months from now. And it's not realistic. At the beginning of this thing, we thought it was going to be a couple weeks. I thought, I really did not picture any of this. And I'm pretty sure you didn't either. Everything has really changed. And downplaying it and saying, in a month, everything's going to be back up and we'll be just fine. Like, that's not realistic. So try to figure out, what can I do this week to make it through? If you are in an abusive relationship, because I do talk a lot about abuse, a lot of people are quarantined with their abusive partner, with their abusive parents, with their abusive siblings, or maybe an abusive roommate or something like that. Please go down to gray rock or low contact. If you're dealing with somebody who's external and who is abusive, this is the perfect time for you to really set up a plan in place where you start talking to them less and less. But if you're living with somebody inside your house, make sure that you don't feed them supply. Make sure that you don't, just really try, and by supply, I mean, you're not going to feed into their negativity, because that's what they're looking for. So I do talk a lot about abuse over on MySpace. If you really want to figure that out, you can go to the Black Sheep on Instagram, the Black Sheep Survives on Instagram, or theblacksheepsurvives.com. I also have a YouTube channel, but all of that is very important because we're all individuals and we all have individual experiences. So I can't give blanket advice, and I'm pretty sure you can't either, because everything is it depends on your personality. It depends on what you're going through and experiencing. A lot of people have different means. It's just so different for everybody.
Yeah. One thing I've been thinking about a lot is just, there's only so much we can control, right? Like there's so much uncertainty in our own lives. And I think that that's a blanket statement that all of us can kind of connect to in a sense and say, okay, we're all dealing with this in different ways. We all have different anxieties, different stresses, different things that are setting us off or, stressing us out. But we can only, like, what can we handle and start there? So, okay, like, what are things that I can deal with right now to set myself up for whatever is to come? And one of my friends explained it really well to me. She was talking about, we don't know what the future holds with regards to business or, our personal lives or whatever, but what are things that I can do right now that will set me up for the decisions in my future? So at some point, all of us are going to have to make decisions. We can't really make decisions right now because of like nothing, we're not even allowed to really leave our houses in a lot of places. So we're all sheltering in place, but what are things that I can do personally to work on myself? What are things that I can do with my finances that can set me up to make really strong decisions in the future? So the things that I can control, let me try and like do something about them in some, even like going to the eye doctor or, all the things that I feel like I've put off. I'm like, those are things that I should actually be dealing with now when I have certainty and I have health insurance and whatever. And I think we can all kind of look at our lives and say, okay, what are things that I can take care of to take care of myself and also to set me up for whatever the future holds. And then just dealing with things one day at a time, because it's so difficult and can be such a stress to think about, okay, like when things open up back in, in June or July, we don't really know, but okay, like what can I do today? And what are things that I can control today? And sometimes it's like, hey, I'm just going to turn off my phone. Like you and I were talking about before we started recording, like I'm just going to turn my phone off for the weekend. And I need to like have space and I'm just going to focus on my family and we're going to binge watch Netflix and eat snacks and not think about it, order pizza. So we don't have to like think about anything. We all need those times too. So it's just like, what can I control right now? And what are the things that I can control right now that will set me up for future decisions?
Yeah. And think about shame. I feel like we need to have like a whole separate shame and vulnerability conversation because a lot of us, we feel guilty like if we do take some time off, like for the weekend, like we discussed about having mandatory time off. And I know we're both workaholics and we have such a passion about what we do. And I know that Kate has such a passion about what she does that it's really hard sometimes to turn it off because you get ideas from everywhere. I don't know that you really do.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. You're thinking about it all the time.
Yeah. They're coming in and you can't stop them. You can't say, okay, thoughts. That was a great one. I'm taking the weekend off.
Well, and we also see what we're doing, with Black Sheep Survives and what I'm doing with One Girl Revolution. I see it as my family, like it's an extension of my family. So I care so deeply about the people that I'm communicating with. And I know you're the exact same way, that it's like, I feel what they're feeling. And so I see somebody, one of the women that I've interviewed with One Girl Revolution who's struggling with her business right now, or who has some other issue going on with her family. Like I empathize with them and I want to do something. And so I'm like thinking about, even if I'm not thinking about what I'm doing with One Girl on a daily basis, which I am, I'm also thinking about all those people that are part of the community, or I see somebody whose baby is sick, or somebody who has someone who has COVID right now asking for prayers or asking for support in some way, or a mom who is a ICU nurse who's struggling right now just to keep food on the table for her kids while she's working to save lives. So I think there's so much going on that we're dealing with. Obviously we have these platforms and we're grateful for them, but we really see these like as extensions of our family, and so we want to walk through everything with the people that are a part of those communities.
Because it's more than a business. We mentioned business, but these are real people. Mm-hmm. I see everybody as a person, not as a number. And we have connections with real people. So that, I think that's what makes the difference, is we realize that this is going on and other people really do need our help. Even if it's like 5-10 minutes of our time where you're checking in and you're like, hey, are you okay? Like, can I do something? Like, what can I, maybe even having that conversation is enough. And most likely it is enough. I notice a lot of people are like, reach out to me, or I reach out to other people, and we spend 5-10 minutes chatting or, talking on the phone, and that changed that whole day around. I know when somebody like checks in with me, like I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, it makes you feel like happy because you're like, oh my God, you know, we're all in this together, but we can help each other out. It doesn't matter how. So sometimes I'm like, I'll just go and make a video because a lot of people need to talk about certain things. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been doing a lot of like Instagram lives and stuff like that lately. And you see people responding really well to it. Yeah. We all need like a little something, a little glimmer of hope. That's how I see it. Like a little something.
Yeah. Well, I think in all we're hearing too, for so long, it's felt like all we're hearing is like all the negatives, like everybody's dying, the hospitals, this, you know, we need this, we need that. And like you turn on the news and it's almost suffocating. And you could say that about anything. It's not just coronavirus. It's not what we're dealing with right now. And we're not going to get into politics, but even that, it's like, I just feel like it's constantly Chicken Little. It's like the world is ending, like everything is terrible. And we're all looking for glimmers of hope. And that's really, and I'd love to know where you're finding hope right now, but where I'm seeing hope or where I'm finding hope is in all of these stories. I mean, there are so many incredible women, men too. I mean, everybody is doing so much, going above and beyond to support their neighbors and help one another. But obviously with One Girl Revolution, I focus on women in particularly, but, you know, little girls who are doing stuff for the elderly in local nursing homes, or people that are collecting money or buying meals for first responders, or, you know, nurses, all the healthcare workers, of course, and even people behind the scenes who are working in healthcare right now. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like we're talking about them enough. Like, yeah, they might not be on the front lines and saving those lives, but because of the work that they're doing, even the people that are working in computers or technology, I mean, the hospitals are running because of every single person who works in healthcare. But I'm just seeing so many beacons of hope and beacons of light. And that's what I've really tried to highlight through One Girl Revolution during this time, is to really highlight these stories of people who are doing incredible things to help people in need, or, you know, feeding families in need right now, or all the kids who are not going to school. A lot of them, sometimes that's the only meal that they get every day, is the meal that they get at school. And so we need to find ways that we can all support one another and help out our neighbors, or, you know, donate, of course. There's so many different things that we can do, but we need to also look for those beacons of light, because they're in our own lives. But I'd love to know where you're finding hope.
Through people. Everybody who I have a connection with, or I have had a connection with, or even like externally, I'm seeing really beautiful things out of a lot of different people that I never even saw before. So that's my hope. Everybody is a hope for me, because I see a lot more neighborly acts. I see a lot of people trying to extend different things that they're doing for different people. It's so beautiful the way that I see like stories or people connecting. Like I've seen a lot of like Instagram lives, and people go really, really viral because one guy started doing like dance parties. He's a DJ. He started doing dance parties. That's the guy cool. Hit so many views on his Instagram lives because people needed that. People crave something different than, like you said, like the news. It's always the same thing. So people are like, oh my gosh, I need a distraction from that. I need something else that makes me feel happy. So seeing like a video or seeing people just act a fool and get down and dance, and that brings us hope, because that's what we need. We need to like remember that. Even though sometimes like we forget here and there because real life creeps in, it's so important to make connections. Like me and you just talking right now, it's so amazing, right? Yeah. Because we might have been too busy before any of this stuff, but at the same time, we always checked in with each other. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important. It shows you that people really do care.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't, I think we can all do a better job of reaching out to people, because there are a lot of people right now during this time that they feel really isolated and they feel like people don't care. And if anybody who's watching feels that way, they need to know that there are so many people that love them, and even us. Like, you know, we care so deeply about every single person that follows us or that we've interacted with. And so there's so many people that love you. And I think we can all do a better job of reaching out to people in our lives that might need to hear that, you know, write them a little card or send them a text message. And a lot of times we think about it, but we get so busy. So we're like, oh, I have a million other things to do. But we need to take time to actually reach out to people and say, hey, I'm thinking of you. We're all the elderly right now that are at home, pick up the phone and call them, and or write them a little handwritten note. And I've been thinking a lot about my friends who live by themselves, who might be feeling really isolated right now because they didn't have anybody to reach out to. They weren't even seeing people on a daily basis. And so really we need to find opportunities and push ourselves to make time, because we all, like we said, make choices on where we spend our time. But now is the time to really reflect on what are we spending our time doing and what are things that we need to be doing. Even you and I, we had talked about doing this show, and both of us got really busy and had other things going on. And so I feel like this time is such a gift because we can say, okay, we're home, let's do it. Let's just run with it. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities like that.
I think don't be afraid. I think it's a big message here. Don't be afraid, because a lot of people are like, well, they don't really want to hear from me, or maybe they're too busy for me. Like, it's okay to feel vulnerable and to open up and say, this is what I need to do. I feel better if I do this, right? Don't feel like, oh my gosh. Like, I know I have a lot of ghost followers, and I'm pretty sure you do too. And then they'll send you a message and they're like, I didn't even know how to write this, but I'm writing to you. That's okay to do. That actually shows that you're growing and you're actually looking to connect with people. It's a beautiful thing. A lot of people want to hear from you, even though you might think, there is no way in the world this person wants to hear from me. And we do that to ourselves, right? That's our imposter syndrome talking about, oh, they don't really want to hear from me or whatever. It's so not true. You would be so surprised how open other people are, especially in this moment, to make a new friend or connect with somebody that they thought, oh, that person would never connect. It's just a lie. That's the story that you're telling yourself. I know that I made a new friend a couple weeks ago. I think we were going through this, and we actually connected over talking about stay-at-home moms and what we can do to teach our kids how to co-regulate and stuff like that. And I sent her a message. I was the one that was like, oh my gosh, I love your page. I want to connect. And it was out of the blue. That wasn't something that I usually do, but I was like, oh my God, I love her stuff. And we became friends through that. It was really awesome to just open up and say, oh my God, you know what? It's okay. That's another person too. And if I get rejected, that's okay too. That's just part of life. It's teaching you that not every single person is the same. And that's okay. We're going to get rejected, but at least I think the underlying message is at least we tried.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like this is one episode of COVID.
I know. Yeah.
We're going to be probably doing a lot more of these since, all this stuff is ongoing. I think our mindset is going to change throughout the weeks. If you guys need any extra help, if you have any topics that we need to discuss with COVID or anything related to that, please let us know. This is not going to be our whole entire show. This is just one series of our show. We're actually doing a lot of women empowering chats. We're going to be talking about boundaries, what we can do, lots of different topics that are underneath this umbrella. But we want to hear from you and what you have to say.
Yeah, send us your questions, send us your comments. We want to hear from you. If you see a story that you want us to talk about, we want to talk about anything with regards to relationships or life or things that are going on in the world. We really want to have these authentic conversations, and we want to kind of take a new, we just want to take a new look on a lot of things that maybe are being talked about in the world, but really have these authentic conversations. So we want to hear from you. Follow us, send us your thoughts and what you're thinking about. And we're just grateful for this opportunity.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.